Hi, I'm Mary Kate at the Bellevue Arts Museum, and I am so excited to invite you to our Kids Fair to Go event this year. Normally, Kids Fair weekend, we'll be making art, having a bananas day at the Bellevue Arts Museum, but this year, instead, we are going to be safely handing out art making kits so that you can take a little bit of BAM home. On Friday, July 24th, Saturday, July 25th, and Sunday, July 26th, we are going to be handing out 6,000 art making kits to the community from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. just outside the museum. We are going to be wearing masks. I got mine all ready to go. We're going to have hand sanitizer available to everyone. There's going to be stanchions set up as well as sidewalk chalk on the ground to tell you where you can safely stand to socially distance from everyone else. And you'll be able to pick up your art making kit and take it on the road and make art at home. And I am so excited to see you there. The first craft we're going to be doing is inspired by the Stephen Hole exhibition up on the 3rd floor of BAM. We are going to be making mobiles. So the education team was inspired by this architecture exhibition, and we were thinking, what is something that we would want to hang up in that exhibition that really plays up the amazing windows that are inside of BAM, as well as the really tall ceilings that are on the 3rd floor? So we were like, why don't we make a mobile? What you're going to need is, and what's going to come in your art kit, is some string. There's going to be one big straw that you're going to be able to cut into smaller pieces, as well as some beads. And in order to do this craft, you're going to need to go on a nature walk and find a stick that you could hang your mobile from. So first things first, you are going to tie a knot in your string so that your beads don't fall off your string while you're threading them through. So I was immediately drawn to this one bead. It has a fish. It's like a little fish bead. And this is the coolest bead I've ever seen. So I'm putting this on my mobile. And let's see. I'm going to thread this through. Oop, my knot wasn't big enough. So maybe do a double knot if you have a fish bead in your kit. So we provided beads, but also if you had more straws around your house that you wanted to use for this art activity, you can. Maybe you could make your own beads if you maybe have some like polymer clay at home. That's a really fun crafting activity. So I'm going to do 2 beads, a fish, and then like a little, this kind of looks like, I don't know, it's like a big donut. And then I'm going to put a straw on. And all of these straws, actually, we've been trying to recycle them for years because we got them for a craft many moons ago, and we've just been trying to use them up and not throw them out. So it's really good to reuse your straws in arts and crafts projects. Okay, so I got 2 beads, a straw, another bead, and I think that maybe I could also add like a washer. So if you have like a toolkit at home with some washers in it, you could add that, and that'll add some real heft to your mobile. Or if you wanted to make it more into a wind chime, you could add like a bell on there, and that would be really cool. But once you get that done, what you're going to do is just tie it to your stick. And in your craft kit, you're going to get, I think, about 5 pieces of string. So if you want to use more string than that, you can provide your own string, or you could cut the string a bit shorter. You don't have to use all 5 strings. So this is kind of how it works out. And then once you do that a few times, you make as many like kind of beaded strings as you want. The final step is to make it hangable. So this is a technique we've done in some of our other videos before. But what you're going to do is just tie both ends of the string to the stick. So one knot, and then the other knot. And as you can tell, my stick is pretty big, so I'm not able to reach the string all the way from end to end. That's okay. I think it's going to look really cool. And oop, I'm a little tangled. And there we go. So you'll have a few more strings hanging down, but this is just the start of it, and I cannot wait to see what you all come up with. This was the final project that our wonderful Kids Fair intern Emily made. So you can see she used straws, she kind of did some pattern making, and it turned out beautiful, if I would say so myself. The next craft we're doing is a classic BAM craft. It is our Wacky Wands. So this one was really inspired by the artist Nicole Gordon, whose exhibition is up on the second floor. She does a lot of like surrealist art that is super colorful. It's really beautiful and immersive. And the education team was inspired by the colors as well as the kind of surrealist, magical quality to her paintings. So we thought, why don't we bring back our awesome Wacky Wand craft? So for this activity, you are going to be getting some feathers in your art making kit, as well as some pieces of string. And you're going to also need to go on a nature walk for this one and find a stick to make up your wand, as well as some fun pieces of greenery or flowers. I picked just an all green color scheme for my wand, but you could include maybe some lavender. I know that's going to smell really good. Or you can include other sticks, or if maybe there's even recycled materials around your house that you think would be really good for a wand, you can definitely include those. First things first, you want to make sure that your stick is free of like any bugs or critters because you don't want to hurt them in this wand making process. There's a few techniques that we suggest. So on some of my example ones, you can see that this wand was painted and then also it was colored on. So there's a little X and O pattern on here, which is really fun. I'm going to leave my wand today kind of natural and make it look like a pretty natural wand rather than have it painted. But if you have paint at home, that's a great thing to do. The one thing that I'm going to do for my wand is I am going to add some fun greenery to it so that when I wave it around and cast spells, I'm using kind of those greens will look really interesting. Maybe they'll kind of smell good if you're finding some like herbs from an herb garden or, like I said before, lavender or rosemary that might be growing in your neighborhood. So one technique that I would like to suggest is, my string's all over the place, tying on the greenery. So what I'm doing, I'm just tying a knot to connect this. I don't have any glue today, and you definitely don't need glue to do this craft. But if you wanted to make sure that your wand is extra secure, you could kind of add a little dab of glue to that knot so it sticks to the stick. And now that I kind of tied this, I guess this is rhododendron, to my stick, I am wrapping it around nice and tightly so it doesn't go anywhere. And another technique that I would suggest is tying the strings together before you start wrapping it, like I did, so that you can have a little longer piece of string. Okay. So now I got a nice long piece of string. I'm just going to wrap it around. It's multicolor. It's going to be so cool looking. And then just as I'm getting to the end, I am going to tie a knot back to itself. This is a good thing to have like grown-up help with because even I struggle with knots sometimes. So if you want to ask for help, it's great to do that. And yeah, I'm just tying this knot. And maybe while you're making your wand, you can think about like, what kind of spells do I want to cast with my wand? Like I'm thinking that I'm going to cast spells for good summer weather in the Pacific Northwest so that the sun is shining, there's not too many clouds in the sky, and it doesn't rain. So here's just the beginning of my wand. And I will show you, here's a final one. You can see the paint as well as the yarn. We also have feathers that you can include on there. And then here's another one that utilizes a leaf and some fun flowers and is also kind of similar to mine and is just totally no paint, all natural. This is going to be a really fun one. Maybe send us a video of you casting spells with your wand, hoping that we can come back for Kids Fair next year. So our third and final craft is based on and inspired by the Burning Man exhibition up on the second floor at BAM. So a few things that I learned about Burning Man during its time that it was on view at the museum is that the Burning Man event is really committed to leaving no trace. So that means cleaning up any messes that you make while you're making art, or also when you're on these nature walks looking for supplies to use for your art projects, also maybe picking up some litter. They're also really committed to gift giving. So one thing that I'd like to recommend as you are making this craft is think about, maybe I can give this piece of jewelry to another person. So in this craft kit, you are going to get about 2 ounces of clay, air dry clay, as well as some baker's twine. And as I kind of mentioned, you're going to need to go on another nature walk for this activity. So we have right here some good smelling pine needles. I have a toilet paper tube that I recycled from the museum. I'm going to be using this as a rolling pin, but you could use any other like round flat object, like a Nalgene water bottle or an actual rolling pin. I also have a, this is what I'll be using as kind of my cookie cutter. So this is going to help me make a nice round even edge on my piece of jewelry. And then I also have a bead for decoration and this stick that'll help me bore a hole through the clay so I can thread this baker's twine through it. So first things first, you are going to kind of get the clay warmed up in your hands. What I'm doing is just kind of flattening it out to begin with before putting it on the table. I'm going to use my makeshift rolling pin to roll this out. This craft kind of reminds me of baking, either making a pie or making some biscuits or cookies. Okay. One thing to keep in mind, if your clay is super thick, it's going to take longer to dry. So the thinner you roll it, the quicker it'll dry, but that also means it's going to be a bit more delicate. So keep that in mind. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using these pine needles that were found on a nature walk to create some really pretty patterns in my jewelry. So I'm just doing this. Not too hard. You can see though that the clay picks up some really pretty details from this natural object. And then I am going to use the cookie cutter to kind of cut it out. It's kind of like a big charm that I'm making. I'll pull away the clay so it's easier to peel up. And one thing that you may want to do for this project that I don't have on me right now, because we don't have any spatulas at the art museum, is you might want to use like a spatula to kind of pull this piece of clay off the table. Okay, there we go. I'm just kind of neatening up the edges with my fingers. I'm very fond of this. Now I'm going to use my stick to put a hole in here, making sure nothing cracks. Ta-da, so you can kind of see that. And because I wanted to add a little bit of color to my piece, I'm going to add this bead right in between where I used the pine needles for printmaking, kind of on my piece of jewelry. Now I'm going to let this dry completely. Once it's dry, you can use paint or probably even markers to decorate it with more color if that interests you. And then once it's also totally dry, you can thread this through and wear it as a necklace or a bracelet or whatever you want to use it for. And here are some final products. So you can see this one was made into kind of a diamond square shape. And then this one right here was made into a circle. I am so excited to see you the weekend of July 24th through 26th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'll be out front of BAM handing out these Kids Fair to Go kits. I'll be smiling extra big, but you won't see that because I'll be in a mask, so I'll be giving lots of thumbs ups instead. Make sure that if you decide to post about your art on social media, you tag the museum so we can see your creations and see how much fun that you had. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.